Welcome to Bloomers in the Garden. I'm Len Schroeder.
And I'm Julio Zamora.
On today's show, we're going to tell you a true story of an Aztec king to an American spy.
A story of a foreign ambassador and the influence of a presidential election.
A story that weaves itself right through Philadelphia.
During the Roaring Twenties, the tale heads west, right to Sunset Boulevard.
We might have never known the entire story if it wasn't for a small German grower.
So what are we talking about? The fascinating story of the Poinsettia.
In our final segment, we're going to tell you about what the Poison Control Center says about poinsettias and their toxicity.
So stay tuned, and we will be right back in the garden right after these messages. Bloomers in the Garden is brought to you each week by Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Bloomers is an award-winning garden center just 20 minutes from Philadelphia. Bloomers has been providing expert advice turning brown thumbs green for over 30 years. At Bloomers, we want you to ask us every question, even if you think it's silly. We share information in a friendly, non-judgmental way that is meant to teach and spread the joy of gardening. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center in Washington Township, Gloucester County. For directions, go to bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden.
Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Fertilum's azalea and evergreen food plus systemic insecticide 915-3 contains 5 micronutrients which are designed for azaleas and evergreens to provide the proper nutrients and producing stunning green leaves and essential new growth while protecting the plant from damaging insects for up to 8 weeks. Fertilum's azalea and evergreen food contains 9% nitrogen for green growth, building bigger stems and leaves, 15% phosphorus for root growth and increased flower production, 13% potash to promote vigorous growth so plants are better able to resist disease and cold. The micronutrients are the icing on the cake to enhance further growth, strengthen, and beautify color. Tired of seeing your plants prematurely drop their leaves, the flowers disappear? Fertilum's Azalea Evergreen Food plus Systemic Insecticide 915-13 contains an easy-to-apply insecticide that keeps your azaleas and evergreens looking great all year long. Those hungry insects do not have a chance. Apply in spring before buds sprout and continue throughout the season as indicated on the label growing guide. Fertilum's Azalea and Evergreen Food plus Systemic Insecticide 915-13 with micronutrients is a must for the passionate azalea and evergreen grower to help produce that beautiful abundance of color and fantastic fragrance everyone will love. So next time you visit your favorite garden center, pick up Fertilum's Azalea and Evergreen Food plus Systemic and expect to have the best looking shrubs in the neighborhood. You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Julio, along the west coast of Mexico, high up in the hills, grows a gangly weed. Weed, the natural poinsettia, is not that pretty thing you see in Bloomers greenhouses today.
No, it isn't.
No, they can grow up to 12 feet tall.
Wow.
But they have a long history in both Mexican history. Like, for instance, they talk about the Aztecs, and where you thank you for saying this for me because I can't.
You can't say it.
No,
You
I'm
can't
a stupid
pronounce it.
American. So, but what did the Aztecs call poinsettia?
Quetzalcoatl.
Wow!
That's a mouthful.
It's a tongue twister.
Quetla Xochitl.
Poinsettias are
Right.
so they used poinsettias. Montezuma was the last of the Aztecs kings, and he brought the plants from lower elevations because in Mexico City, and we know, all right, this is a horticultural thing. There are a lot of plants that we can't grow in our area because of our elevation.
Right.
Where they can grow them up in the mountains or they can't grow them in the mountains. Mexico City's elevation is too high to grow poinsettias. So what the kings used to do, and it's documented where Montezuma would bring poinsettias in by the caravan because they symboled for their culture purity.
Purity, how about that?
And that it's also used in the 14th to 16th century. The sap itself. Now, we're going to, spoiler alert for the fifth segment. They're not poisonous. All right. 14th, 15th, and through the 16th century, the sap was used to control fevers, used to encourage breastfeeding, and the bracts, which are the actual flower that everyone calls a flower, are just modified leaves. We'll get into that later. Were used to make a reddish dye. Wow. The first known documented poinsettia flower drawing was in 1780 by a Spanish botanist. So even though this long Mexican history of the poinsettia, it's really not until the 1700s, almost 1800s, before it became a thing.
Yep.
Worldwide, I guess. So brought it back to Europe.
Amazing.
So it's incredible the journey that it takes from here.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to break, and we're going to tell you the rest of the poinsettia story right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. You know, some of our most frequent questions revolve around organic container gardening for houseplants, annuals, and of course, vegetables. Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Blend Organic Potting Soil is a lightweight soil mixture made with salmon, blueberry, lobster, and other composts, as well as calcium and chitin-rich lobster shells, sphagnum peat, perlite, and kelp meal. It is a great soil. And Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Organic Potting Soil is rich in organic material, creating lush, disease-resistant plants that require less watering, less feeding. Its rich, dark brown color provides the perfect balance between water retention and drainage needed for healthy plants. Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Blend Organic Potting Soil is available at these local retailers.
Staffers of Kissel Hill Home and Garden Store, Rorastown, Pennsylvania. Ashcombe Farm and Greenhouses, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Pickering Valley Feed and Farm, Exton, Pennsylvania.
Your next houseplant is waiting for you in Bloomers Home and Garden Center's greenhouse. Bloomers recognizes that houseplant choices are as important to your interior decorating as the fabric on your couch. The right plant, paired with the perfect container, can bring a dynamic change to your home. A houseplant brings life to your world and connects your home's interior to the greater outdoors. Even a small succulent placed on your coffee table has a way of connecting your living room to the Amazon rainforest. How about an air plant in your kitchen? Looking for an indoor flowering plant to add color to your plant palette? Bloomers has a large revolving assortment of flowering beauties. From aglaonemas to ZZ plants, Bloomers Greenhouse is stocked with your next favorite indoor plant. Bloomers carries a large selection of pottery and containers to match your home's decor and make any of your plants more beautiful. Bloomers experts can help you care for your plants and have the fertilizer, insecticides, leaf shine, and specialty soils you need to grow healthy and happy indoor plants. Visit Bloomer's Home and Garden Center's greenhouse and make every room in your home a living room. Visit bloomers.com for more information. That's bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden. You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 a.m. WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Everybody out there, you want to remember this name, Joel Roberts Poinsettia. He was a South Carolinian politician who lived from 1779 to 1851. But he wasn't just a politician, huh, Len?
No, he had a pretty... You talk about living a full life.
Yes,
Okay.
he led that.
So he was born in March 2nd, 1779, in Charleston, like you said. His father was a prominent physician, which means they had money.
Yes.
Okay. And as a boy, he was educated by private tutors. But in 1796, he was sent to Europe and to study abroad. He actually was going to go to Edinburgh to study medicine like his father.
Yeah.
But the climate got a little overwhelming, and he ended up attending a military school in England, and he was going to pursue a military career. But that also changed. His father said, look, come back to the U.S., and what I want you to do is to study law.
How about that, huh?
Politics,
yeah.
right? But he toured all of Europe. So you think about a young man who's cultured, and this is one of the right off the Thomas Jefferson, right off of the founding fathers. So he was born during the Revolutionary War.
Yes, he was. Yeah,
Okay.
a young fellow too. He was 17 when he went.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could all learn a lot from that.
Yeah, we can.
Top millennials out there.
Yeah.
They're all getting older.
Yeah.
It's time to get out of your parents' basement.
That's right.
All right, that's getting a little old. Anyway, so in 1801, for 7 years, he returned to Europe, and he traveled all through Europe and Asia, and that he got to meet quite a few different people. Like met Napoleon, he met the Russian czars. He was welcomed because, again, he was like, America's royalty.
Yes, he was,
if you will. So
amazing guy.
But also was well educated, where he spoke French, he spoke
Russian.
Spanish and Russian, and so he could.
He had at least 5 or 6 languages.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
Amazing. Well, you got 2 down for sure.
That's it.
Yeah, that's enough.
That's enough.
I barely have English now, so I'm working on it.
There you go.
So he comes back to the United States when. Remember the War of 1812?
Wow.
Andrew Jackson. That started. That whole English, American, or United States did not get along for a period. He felt that, and when in 1808, he said, "I better get out of here."
Right.
And so he returned home. Now, James Madison. Just imagine, President call you up. President Biden say, "Hey, Julio, I need your help."
Oh, my goodness.
Like,
you got it.
Yeah.
I'll be right there.
Yeah, I don't think he'd call you, though.
No, I don't think so either.
So in 1810, James Madison, said, look, I need an envoy to South America.
How about that?
Realizing, again, the whole feeling of being one whole continent from, sea to shining sea.
Sure.
Is starting to develop. So let's see. And he went to South America, and see, this is where he becomes the spy.
This is a turning point.
So basically, James Madison said, look, you're kind of undercover. So he posed as a British merchant to collect intelligence on events in Chile.
How about that,
where a revolution sought independence from Spain. The situation in Chile became volatile. Poinsettia's position became, they actually have a word for it, precarious. And he departed Chile and then went to Argentina, where he stayed until he returned in 1815. So he was out there in 3 years meddling in South America, and then came back to Charleston.
Wow. That's amazing, isn't it? Already he's into thick of things.
Oh, yeah. 1816. I got elected to the South Carolina legislature. That was short because James Monroe in 1817 called upon Poinsettia to go back to South America as a special envoy, but he said no. He said no.
I wonder why.
Okay. It's interesting. I think because they would remember that he was, trouble.
Oh,
I remember you.
Yeah.
String him up. All right. So 1821, he was actually elected to Congress and served for 4 years. And then between 1822 to 23, he visited Mexico. He basically was an ambassador of Mexico. He finally gave in and went back to South America. There's a book that he published about his journeys. Mexico also accused him of being a spy. He probably was. He probably was. So he was there 1823, 1825. Now another president taps into him, John Quincy Adams. He wanted to, first of all, rely on his information about Mexico, but there also was a little. He was a friend. Poinsett was a friend of Andrew Jackson, who was going against him in an election. So he's basically, he doesn't need any help from you, and I need all the help I can get. So I'm going to put you back into Mexico. They were involved in a civil war, and he became a persona non grata to the Mexican government. In other words, they kicked him out.
Yeah, you're right.
They told him to get out in 1827, and there actually is a word for it. Julio, can you do your Mexican, your best Spanish on that?
Poinsettismo.
So again, another thing.
Yeah.
He still hasn't found the poinsettia yet.
No, he hasn't.
So, in any case, 1830. Okay, President Andrew Jackson, who Poinsett had befriended because actually there was secession plans in South Carolina, a movement to split off from the Union, who actually, that Poinsett calmed it down.
Is that something?
Another president, Martin Van Buren, asked and convinced Poinsett to come out of retirement to return to Washington as a Secretary of War. So that's Secretary of Defense. We were talking about this
yes, we were.
yesterday. This is a big deal.
It is.
Double the size of the Army.
Yeah. Amazing.
And you think about it. I mean, we were still coming out of the Revolutionary War only, how many years prior, in that we needed to have a large enough army to be able to go from sea to shining sea.
Yeah. And he expanded the military.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he doubled it, I think, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What an amazing man.
Absolutely. While he was in Mexico, in 1820, found a beautiful plant, large red flowers growing next to the road, and he took cuttings from this plant, and he sent them to a friend. And where was his friend? Bartram Gardens.
Bartram, yes.
Bartram Gardens. Anne Bartram, who was actually Anne Bartram Carr, and her husband, Robert, who had received the original cutting sent by Poinsett, it became an instant hit. Now, again, this isn't the nice condensed plant.
Yeah.
This is a long, gangly weed that people used as cut flower. So they went into cut flower production.
Right.
So, again, discovered the plant, names it the Poinsettia, and that's how things got started.
Yeah, this whole connection with Bartram, in
it's pretty amazing,
right.
and that where even like Joel Poinsett, if you go to like Greenville, North Carolina, there are things, everything is Poinsett this, Poinsett that, Poinsett tire. It's like everything.
Bridge.
The joke was that everything but the Waffle House was called Poinsett.
Yeah, really.
But I loved what he had on his tombstone. On his tombstone, he has written, a pure patriot, an honest man, and a good Christian.
That's it.
Well,
Plain and simple.
We could all live up to those those words. That'd be great. That'd be a wonderful thing.
Yes, it would.
All right. Then next segment, we're going to talk about how it became so popular, the poinsettia. We'll be right back right after this. Fertilome Succulent Potting Mix with EcoPeat is the perfect ready-to-use potting mix for all your succulents. Fertilome Succulent Potting Mix is a blend of sphagnum peat moss, perlite, and EcoPeat. EcoPeat is a natural wood fiber from peat bogs. When added to Fertilome peat moss, it produces a superior professional substrate with an exceptional ratio of air porosity and water holding capacity. Fertilome Succulent Potting Mix will ensure maximum drainage with ideal water retention. It's simply the best succulent mix on the market. Ask for Fertilome by name at your local garden center. Available at Daniel's Garden Center, Sumneytown Pike, Harleysville, Pennsylvania. Gasper's Home and Garden, 316 Tanyard Road, Richboro, PA. Church's Garden Center and Farms, Seashore Road, Cape May, New Jersey. Collegeville Do It Best, Ridge Pike, Collegeville, Pennsylvania. County Line Nursery, Harleysville Pike, Harleysville, Pennsylvania. The Bird Sanctuary at Bloomer's Home and Garden Center is dedicated to the care and feeding of wild birds. We carry a flock of feeders like the Brome Squirrel Proof Feeder, which has a lifetime guarantee. Brome makes fantastic feeders for frustrating squirrels and feeding songbirds. Bloomer's Bird Sanctuary has a vast selection of wild bird seed, suet, seed cakes, and mealworms. We carry Lyric, Coles, C&S, Pine Tree Farms, and our own line called Bloomer's Blend. Bloomer's Blend Songbird Magnet contains premium black oil sunflower, peanut splits, millet, safflower, and tree nuts. It's sure to attract the most colorful songbirds to your yard. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center is located in Washington Township in Gloucester County, New Jersey. Visit us online at www.bloomers.com. When you come in, ask for Shirley Spurbeck, Bloomer's Wild Bird Specialist. Mention you heard it on Bloomers in the Garden Radio, and we'll give you $10 off a 20-pound bag of Bloomer's Blend Songbird Magnet Mix. You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider, or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB, and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 a.m. WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So we're talking about the story of the poinsettia. Here we are. We're now fast forwarding. The poinsettia is basically known as a cut flower.
Cut flower, yeah.
It's not a potted plant that we know today. Not yet.
No,
not yet.
Not yet. Takes time.
Paul Ecke Jr. in 1920 coined the Ecke Ranch, okay, which grew cut flowers, poinsettia cut flowers, particularly in California, right on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
It was amazing because at that time, you think about it, so 1920s were, the West was just really being settled. It's not like there was it is as it is today. Think about this, that the Civil War ended, let's see, so that would be 40, 60 years ago. So it would be like World War II is today to us, or actually probably Korea. Now, let's think about this. So Paul Ecke Sr. is growing these poinsettias, and that he's actually sending them on freight cars, and so that people can grow them back east. So they actually went from South Carolina with Joel Poinsett to Ann Bartram in Philadelphia to California, and now they're shipping them back. So they're basically sending cuttings back. They're not sending the cut flower, but that the cuttings would last and would hold up for that train ride back east. So interesting.
And then another person comes into the picture here, Len. 1963, we got a guy named Paul Mickelson.
Right.
And Mickelson, he's from Ohio, by the way.
Yeah.
And he threw these seedlings in the dump and came back, and the plant was still there. And
so what did he do? Did he try to grow a crop and they failed and they just threw them out? They just threw them out and he found them.
He found them, yeah. What a story that is. Huh?
It is, because again, he was trying to find a more compact variety, because they literally, back in the Ecke Ranch days, in the early days, that if somebody wanted to grow it and put it on their table, the stems, remember these in the wild, they grew 12 feet tall.
Yeah. Amazing.
But they would bend the stems over and basically bend it down and then bend it back up, and it would then be more compact. But that was the only way they could do it. Yeah. They didn't. I mean, we talk about the magic of breeding and hybridizing plants and things. Mm-hmm. So we go Paul Mickelson, and again, he threw the seedlings in the dump, and he went back, and what did he find?
He found they were so good that almost he put Ecke out of business. You know, the way he was doing this, and he shipped the rooted cuttings, not canes,
right,
like Ecke.
Right. So now growers, they could get his variety, and we always talk about it, that a cutting is a clone of the original plant. So he found in the dump this nice compact plant that was suitable for growing in a pot and selling on a retail front. Now, it's amazing. It was a competitor. So now Ecke's like,
something.
And by this time, Paul Ecke Jr. Came along. So this is the son.
Son comes in,
and he needed a nanny. It's like, somebody's got to take care of my kids. I can't do it. You know. So there was a German nanny that only worked if they hired the husband. The husband was a gardener.
How about that, huh?
Franz Fruworth. And he's the one who started hybridizing poinsettias at Ecke, 1968. So again,
gardener.
like I was saying, that it saved his butt from Mickelson in Ohio, who was sending these rooted cuttings all over the world, in that where it was that introduction and it doesn't always, like, do you know the winter rose poinsettia? That's the one that's more of a compact, like it's a little crinkled, it's small. I'm like, everybody look at that.
Yeah, it's a
if
little
you look at our
smaller.
YouTube channel, I'm going to Aaron, if he'd put that up. That variety was introduced by Franz. And that variety, it was 1999.
1999, huh?
That's right.
Classic.
That's right. Now, another thing. So, we go now, the story moves. Okay, so it went to California. So he went from like the Aztecs in Mexico to South Carolina to Philadelphia to the West Coast,
Sunset
right?
Boulevard.
And then to Ohio, and now the German gardener is doing the hybridization program. Right. I wonder if she's was still the nanny at the time. I bet she was.
Bet she was. Yeah. She probably liked the job.
That now it goes to Norway.
How about that, huh?
Annette Haig is a very popular variety of poinsettia, and it's not so much that it's a different color, it's the fact that it's more compact, and it was introduced in 1967. And it was the first cultivar where you didn't have to pinch it. You know, we talk about how with like mums, for instance, you have to pinch mums and you have to make things more compact and force them into being compact. This Annette Haig was introduced by Thormod Haig of Norway, and it was considered, again, the first self-branching, no pinching required. So you didn't have to force it into compact. So,
How about that?
Guess who heard?
Mr. Ecke himself.
That's right. Ecke said, "Hey, let's go into business together."
Yes.
Okay.
Smart guy.
It was. And the thing is, he kept it, Annette Haig was the name of the variety, and kept it that. So, all right, he's got a deal. He's keeping up with his competitor in Ohio. So then, a German backyard grower, Gregor Thier. All right, no, Gerther.
Good beer.
There you go.
Good beer.
Look it up. Anyway, so again, it's a backyard grower, just a guy, just hanging out. Ecke is traveling in Europe. There must be money in Poinsettia.
There must be.
Anyway, so he found free branching poinsettias in this guy's greenhouse.
Look at that.
So he's now in Germany. He offered him $5,000 cash, created a partnership on the spot. And it was a graft from mother plants that yielded the desirable branching. Now, this is bigger and more scientific than you realize.
Right.
So what was found out is that when you grafted the plant, it took on the actual branching characteristics from the other plant. And it was transmitted from an infected plant, and that it was actually like a disease, Julio, that caused it. Like we've seen witch's broom,
right?
And that some witch's brooms have become plants
yeah.
that are more compact, and that it was a virus that was actually in this variety. So this virus would basically go into the infected plant through the graft.
Wow.
Okay. This was a trade secret. This is nobody had this.
No.
Nobody had this.
How about that?
Except some guy, okay, all right, a professor.
Oh, brother.
Spilled the beans. It pisses me off. As an entrepreneur, that the Ecke had this. It was a monopoly, yes,
right.
But he didn't have to share it.
No, he didn't.
But this Minnesota professor figured it out and then went and ruined it.
Oh, yeah. This secret was for 20 years, by the way.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
In 1976, poinsettias were a $40 million crop. In 25 years, it grew to a $250 million crop.
Huh. What is it today?
It's an amazing thing, but the problem that I have is that, again, it's through that whole grafting technique where you infected the plant that you grafted it to. I mean, that's a trade secret.
Yeah, it is.
Whatever. I guess secrets end up being told no matter what.
Yeah.
So, Paul Ecke Jr., okay, he was a promoter.
Mr. PR.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that he would do?
Yes.
So again, this is Ecke Ranch.
Ecke
Ranch is famous amongst the horticultural world, but he really increased the exposure of poinsettias. Otherwise, they were just kind of whatever.
Yeah, that's it.
But now, what did he do, Julio?
He went on a Johnny Carson show, on a Tonight Show, and he brought in his poinsettia. And from there, people started to see it.
And what he would do is he would give the Tonight Show 50, 100 poinsettias to decorate the set.
Right.
And people would see that and they would say, what the heck is that? And then they would figure it out. He would do it to all the news stations. Any movie that was dealing with Christmas, he would donate the poinsettia to, because it would come back around, because people would need to get their poinsettia cuttings from him, and that he was doing Rudy cuttings by now. Now, there's an old saying, and that my grandparents would say it as a warning. It's like shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in one generation. And it would basically is said that, you have the generation that discovers or starts and is the entrepreneur. The next generation expands it, and then it's the third generation where it gets sold or exploited to the point where they sell it. And that happens quite a bit. And Paul Ecke III, and I don't blame him, he sold the third generation business in 2012 to a Dutch company, Doomen Orange.
Human orange, yeah.
And that they retain the Ecke name.
Which is great.
Which is nice. So it's
Yeah.
a nice honor
It is.
for the family that did so much work on it.
Yeah.
So, again, that poinsettia that you see, it's come a long way from Mexico.
Oh, can you imagine?
We're going to tell you more right after these messages. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Your next houseplant is waiting for you in Bloomers Home and Garden Center's greenhouse. Bloomers recognizes that houseplant choices are as important to your interior decorating as the fabric on your couch. The right plant, paired with the perfect container, can bring a dynamic change to your home. A houseplant brings life to your world and connects your home's interior to the greater outdoors. Even a small succulent placed on your coffee table has a way of connecting your living room to the Amazon rainforest. How about an air plant in your kitchen? Looking for an indoor flowering plant to add color to your plant palette? Bloomers has a large revolving assortment of flowering beauties. From aglaonemas to ZZ plants, Bloomers Greenhouse is stocked with your next favorite indoor plant. Bloomers carries a large selection of pottery and containers to match your home's decor and make any of your plants more beautiful. Bloomers experts can help you care for your plants and have the fertilizer, insecticides, leaf shine, and specialty soils you need to grow healthy and happy indoor plants. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center's greenhouse and make every room in your home a living room. Visit bloomers.com for more information. That's bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden.
Dreaming of a gorgeous garden? Give your azaleas, rhododendron, blueberries, and evergreens a powerful boost with the #1 acid-loving plant food, Espoma Organic Hollytone. Hollytone is a perfect blend of natural, long-lasting ingredients that nourish plants for stronger roots, faster growth, and bountiful blooms. Plus, it's easy to use and safe for people, pets, and planet. Visit espoma.com for a retailer near you and helpful gardening tips. Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 a.m. WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. In this segment, we're going to talk about caring for your poinsettia in the house. So here we go, Len.
During the break, we were talking about
Yeah.
how far that they've come. Winter rose was a remarkable change in the poinsettia flower, but now where the white in a poinsettia, and again, we're talking about flowers, the actual flower is not the colorful part. The flower is the yellow centers of those. The colorful part that we call flowers is actually a modified bract or a modified leaf that gets that color as it goes into bloom.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking on YouTube, we're showing how the center of the actual bracts, there's the true flower where you can see the pollen and you can see everything else in it. So those yellow sections. And that's why poinsettias last so long, that those can all fall off. The flowers can fall off and they're so small, but it still retains the color. Mm-hmm. So again, poinsettias are an amazing plant.
Yes, they are.
We have like white used to be like almost like a creamy white.
Yes.
And now there's a variety that it's called pure white is what it's called. And it's literally that as white as a piece of paper.
Really? It's
and
amazing.
the pinks, there's dark pinks, and it's almost, they look like candy.
Candy, don't they?
Yeah,
There's yellow now, and there's one that's kind of
orangey.
Orangey, yeah. It's
Nevin
Folk.
Orange, and that was recently highlighted on a news story that where Nevin Greenhouses in one of the trade publications only 2 years ago found it as in the middle of their crop, and then gave it to their hybridizer, and that he's carried it on, and like we have it this year.
Yeah.
It's really neat because it's red enough to be considered a poinsettia, but it still has like a little bit of an orange tinge.
Too, yeah.
Don't worry, you won't see them. Hopefully not for Halloween.
No, you won't.
Poinsettias are simple.
Yeah.
Give them enough light so that you can comfortably in a room. You could read a newspaper by.
That's right.
You want to water it when the surface of the water goes dry. Keep it away from drafts. Shut off that vent if you've got a heat vent or a door. You want to keep it away from drafts. And again, it'll continue to grow as a houseplant after those center flowers drop off. And if you just keep it, like last week, Julio was talking about how his mom used to keep a plant, and where it was just a house plant to her after Christmas, and that she planted in the garden, so it was there. And it's photoperiodic, so it needs to be timed to get it to bloom at the right time. Just be aware that next year your poinsettia will be blooming at a different time. Yeah. So,
but we always say.
So
they're
Aaron just
plants.
wrote me a note. Keep them off walls. What? Oh, yeah. If you have a greenhouse and your staff goes and puts them where they're leaning against the glass, you can admonish them because the temperature of the glass is going to be the same temperature outside, and they don't like that. All right. Got that out. All right.
There you go, Aaron.
But really, water is simple. Water when they go dry. Okay. And just keep a pattern after that. And I don't know. That's it. They're actually pretty easy plants to take care of.
Yeah, they're not hard.
Yeah. So, all right. Again, the varieties that are at your local garden center will astound you. It's not just red, white, and pink anymore.
No, it's not.
It is different flower shapes. It's speckled varieties. There's the one with the variegated leaf in a red flower.
Right.
There are tremendous amount of new and interesting, like Jingle Bells is one of my favorite. It's got a speckle to it.
Right. Amazing.
Red and red with white speckles, red with pink speckles. It's amazing what they do.
And we also have them in pots or like mixed, like
yeah. So you have
white,
one cutting's red, one cutting's white, one cutting's pink.
That's right.
Yeah. And
So-
one thing is,
What?
if you are looking for something for a centerpiece, what to do is use a hanging basket. Buy a hanging basket poinsettia because they're nice and squat, and take the hanger off and just set it on the table.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like a big dome on your table, and it looks really sharp. Because sometimes, you get a real nice 7-inch poinsettia, but then, you can't see the person across the table from you. But that might be what you want.
Right.
So, again, it's up to you.
Now, if you can't find what we're talking about, you got to come to Bloomers and Home and Garden Center because your regular stores.
That's my boy.
They don't carry but red and white, and that's about it. So if you want to see the other colors, you got to come to us because we have them all.
It's your garden center that's going to have them, and that they're not treating them as a commodity junk like they do at Sam's Club, or at some of the let the big guys sell lumber. A lot of their plants end up being lumber.
Yeah, they do.
Anyway, all right. In the next segment coming up, we're going to talk about whether the poinsettia is poisonous or not. So we'll be right back right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880, and we'll see you in the garden. You know, some of our most frequent questions revolve around organic container gardening for houseplants, annuals, and of course, vegetables. Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Blend organic potting soil is a lightweight soil mixture made with salmon, blueberry, lobster, and other composts, as well as calcium and chitin-rich lobster shells, sphagnum peat, perlite, and kelp meal. It is a great soil. And Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor organic potting soil is rich in organic material, creating lush, disease-resistant plants that require less watering, less feeding. Its rich, dark brown color provides the perfect balance between water retention and drainage needed for healthy plants. Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Blend organic potting soil is available at these local retailers.
Forsalati Brothers, Rivervale, New Jersey. Calgo Gardens, Freehold, New Jersey. Tony's Farm and Garden, Windsor, New Jersey.
Dreaming of a gorgeous garden? Give your azaleas, rhododendron, blueberries, and evergreens a powerful boost with their #1 acid-loving plant food, Espoma Organic Hollytone. Hollytone is a perfect blend of natural, long-lasting ingredients that nourish plants for stronger roots, faster growth, and bountiful blooms. Plus, it's easy to use and safe for people, pets, and planet. Visit espoma.com for a retailer near you and helpful gardening tips. Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 a.m. WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. We're talking all about poinsettias. Mm-hmm. The biggest myth about poinsettias is they're poisonous, but we have a myth buster. All right, poinsettias. We called, Julio and I. It was fun calling. We actually put the Poison Control Center on speaker and called them up and asked if they thought poinsettias were poisonous. And it was amazing. And we can't play what she did because we did record it, but we agreed that we wouldn't play it, that we'd have to go through the proper channels or what have you. But we are going to, I said, we're going to use the information that you provided us. And first of all, let me do this. Poison Control telephone number is 800-222-1222. If you don't believe us, call them yourself. Okay? Again, Poison Control Center, 800-222-1222. Okay. What did she say, Julio? Real life, right?
Real life. They are not poisonous at all.
That's right.
That's plain and simple, folks.
Right? That's right. She said it came from information back in the 50s because of one incident, and that we did a little digging, and that incident actually occurred in, let's see, it was in Hawaii, and it was a book in 1944, Poisonous Plants of Hawaii, and stated that the milky juice in the leaves are poisonous. All based on a 2-year-old child of a U.S. military officer that said his child died of eating poinsettias in 1919.
Oh, gosh.
1919, okay?
Yeah, right.
Poinsettias didn't even get to the West Coast yet. I don't know how he got poinsettias, but anyway. And
that's right.
It did not. There was no medical basis for this claim or death, and the author actually in the 1944 book retracted the conclusion that the poinsettias killed the child. So
that was fake news, huh?
Fake news. Fake book.
That's right.
Fake book. So again, right from the Poison Control Center. Also, we worry about, I was in the grocery store. I was listening and overhearing somebody saying, I can't get a poinsettia. It's going to kill my cats.
Oh, boy.
I bit my lip so hard.
Really?
I bled a little.
Oh, gosh, did you really?
Not true.
Oh, my God.
Not true.
No.
Poison Control Center says they may eat some leaves. They may get a little discomfort. But,
Yeah.
I mean,
What's that?
who eats Brussels sprouts? You get a little gastric discomfort if you eat too many.
That's right. Black beans, too.
No,
You're at it.
Yeah, well, you would know.
I know.
Sometimes traveling here to the studio is quite an experience.
It is.
Anyway, but it's like,
Sorry about that, man.
why do we have our windows down and it's 20 degrees outside? Anyway, but that's it. Dogs too, same thing. That it not going to kill them. There is they said the Poison Control Center has never, ever had a toxic incident with poinsettias.
At all.
Drop the mic.
Yes.
In Columbus, Ohio. And Columbus, Ohio is important for floriculture, where that is where obviously Ohio State is, and that they are an awesome school when it comes to greenhouse production and things. Now, they did a study and trying to get rid of the myth about that, which refuses to die, as they stated, that poinsettias are poisonous to humans. First of all, they do taste awful, and they aren't poisonous. The assistant professor of horticulture and crop science at Ohio State said way back in 1971, the research at Ohio State, they tested the toxicity of poinsettias, and they did it on rats, which is often done on how to see how poisonous things are. And it was just not true. Not true. Not true. A study in the American Journal of Emergency Medicine reviewed 22,793 cases of poinsettia exposure. Okay. Reported to the American Association of Poison Control Centers, and did not find a single fatality recorded. Another study, journal Toxicon, reported that investigators who fed rats up to 500 to 600 poinsettia leaves did not identify any toxic potential for this plant.
Wow.
Poinsettias are not toxic, are not poisonous. Now, there's always cases where, like, for instance, that some people may be like allergic to latex. And that it's a type of euphorbia, poinsettia, and that where the white can bring out some latex, more of a skin rash than anything else. But this isn't common. This is like rare as rare can be.
Yeah.
So again, poinsettias are not toxic, are not poisonous. Not to your dog, not to your cat. My daughter, Melissa, we haven't talked about her in a while. Melissa and Steve, shout out.
There you go, Steve.
They
Melissa.
now married, have a puppy, and the puppy throws up every morning.
Yeah, it does.
It's not eating poinsettias,
Yeah.
but I mean, if you never had a dog, did you?
I did have a dog.
You did have a dog?
Oh, yeah.
What happened? Did you eat too many poinsettias? No. What happened to your dog?
We got rid of it.
You got rid of dog. See? Strict household Julio grew up in. But I mean, if you have a dog, I mean, dogs throw up.
They do.
And then they go out and eat grass.
That's it.
And why do they eat grass? Because it settles their
Digestion.
stomach.
Yep.
Anyway, just telling you, poinsettias are not
toxic.
toxic. Don't believe it. And if they don't, because I'll tell you what, it's become fighting words for me. I don't want to hear it. It's just not true. It's not true.
If you see your cat or dog, buy the poinsettia trying to eat it, why don't you feed the poor thing? It's like, come on now. It must be hungry,
I'm going
right?
to throw you. I got a hairball. I need to throw up. Let me eat some poinsettia leaves.
Is that what it is?
All right. I hope that we have cleared that up, everybody. If you've got questions, call the Poison Control Center. Again, if you don't believe us, call the Poison Control Center. The telephone number for the Poison Control Center is 800-222-1222.
And they go over the research with you.
Yeah, they spent a long time with us.
They do.
Yeah. Speaking of long time, we got to go to break. We'll be right back right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. The Bird Sanctuary at Bloomers Home and Garden Center is dedicated to the care and feeding of wild birds. We carry a flock of feeders like the Brome Squirrel-Proof Feeder, which has a lifetime guarantee. Brome makes fantastic feeders for frustrating squirrels and feeding songbirds. Bloomers Bird Sanctuary has a vast selection of wild bird seed, suet, seed cakes, and mealworms. We carry Lyric, Coles, C&S, Pine Tree Farms, and our own line called Bloomers Blend. Bloomers Blend Songbird Magnet contains premium black oil sunflower, peanut splits, millet, safflower, and tree nuts. It's sure to attract the most colorful songbirds to your yard. Bloomers Home and Garden Center is located in Washington Township in Gloucester County, New Jersey. Visit us online at www.bloomers.com. When you come in, ask for Shirley Spurbeck, Bloomers Wild Bird Specialist. Mention you heard it on Bloomers in the Garden Radio, and we'll give you $10 off a 20-pound bag of Bloomers Blend Songbird Magnet Mix.
Bloomers in the Garden is brought to you each week by Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Bloomers is an award-winning garden center just 20 minutes from Philadelphia. Bloomers has been providing expert advice turning brown thumbs green for over 30 years. At Bloomers, we want you to ask us every question, even if you think it's silly. We share information in a friendly, non-judgmental way that is meant to teach and spread the joy of gardening. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center in Washington Township, Gloucester County. For directions, go to bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden.
See me and Julio down by the schoolyard.
Me and Julio schooled again.
Again.
Hey, if you listen to this show, go find us on YouTube, and you can watch the show. Aaron's going to put in some imagery of what we're talking about, some of the plants, the poinsettias that we're talking about. Also, Joe Poinsett, you'll actually see what he looks like. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, it's a fun way to look at the show. You get to see us in person. You get to see Julio, the handsome one. And that where – can I give out your number? No, I won't give out your number.
Next week.
All right. But again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being with us.
Right.
And if you have questions, call the hotline, 609-685-1880.
And you can listen to us anytime, by going onto your favorite podcasting platform or go to bloomers.com and visit the radio tab.
Yeah, YouTube.
There you go.
YouTube. Come visit us. See us. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll see you next week here in the garden.
See you in the garden.